As Jahil met his ultimate demise, tears welled in Kagali's eyes as the weight of her long struggle lifted. Overcome with emotion, she reflected on the hardships she had endured to reach this moment. Kneeling before her was Eva, the so-called heartless jester, a dark elf maid who had faithfully served Kagali since her days as a princess. Though Eva lacked full knowledge of the battle's history, she instinctively understood that Jahil had been a significant enemy, and seeing Kagali relieved and joyful made every risk she had taken worthwhile. As the group gathered, Yuki approached them with a playful grin, asking if he had fulfilled his role as their leader. Kagali and Tyr responded enthusiastically, with Kagali pledging her loyalty to him from that moment onward, while Tyr, satisfied with avenging footmen, praised his efforts. Laplace, not one to be left out, arrogantly claimed that if he had helped, the battle would have ended even faster, though his words held no truth. Amused, Yuki humored him, keeping the atmosphere light despite the battle's gravity. However, the mood shifted when Luminous descended from the sky, having observed the battle from above. Yuki, wary of her, half-jokingly asked if she could hold off on any complaints until he had rested. Surprisingly, Luminous dismissed his caution, stating that while she still held a grudge for past conflicts, she had no intention of interfering at the moment. She was genuinely grateful to him for eliminating Jahil, a significant thorn in her side. With that, she inquired about his next move, secretly hoping to recruit Yuki's group to the battlefield. However, knowing how distrusted he still was, she expected resistance. Yuki, fully aware of this reality, bluntly stated that they had their own plans and wouldn't be joining the fight. Unfazed, Luminous accepted his answer, having anticipated it. Just as their exchange was about to conclude, Yuki casually added that while his group was leaving, Mai would be staying behind. Luminous, caught off guard, questioned this decision, prompting Yuki to point out a troublesome enemy, a bird-like being utilizing spatial teleportation, causing significant disruption on the battlefield. With Mai's abilities, capturing it would be far easier. Understanding the strategic advantage, Luminous immediately commanded Mai to join the battle, speaking with the authority of a ruler. However, Mai, who had not been informed of this plan, was completely bewildered. She had only just resolved to trust Yuki and follow him, yet now it felt as though he had abandoned her. Flustered, she hesitated, glancing at Yuki for clarification, only to be met with his cheerful, carefree smile as he patted her shoulder and reassured her to do her best. His final words, sent privately through thought communication, promised that if she ever needed help, he would come and that their agreement would be honored. Before she could respond, Yuki and his entire group vanished without a trace. Shocked, Mai struggled to grasp how Yuki had vanished so effortlessly. No one among his allies should have teleportation skills rivaling hers. Spatial magic required preparation and left traces, yet Yuki had disappeared instantly, an undetectably, an impossible feat. The realization unsettled her. Had he learned the technique just by experiencing it with her? She had always known Yuki was a genius, but this level of adaptability was staggering. Frustrated yet reassured, she suspected he had left her behind intentionally, sensing her inner turmoil. Pushing aside her doubts, Mai refocused. The world was on the brink of destruction, and even without full clarity, she knew the crisis was dire. Resolving to act, she activated her jump ability, leaping straight into the Habitak he wore to fulfill the role Yuki had entrusted to her. The battle over the sacred tree continued in a fragile balance, with Chloe and Veldora working in unison to contain Milim's destructive rampage. Despite being an impromptu team, they complemented each other well, with Chloe taking the lead in their strategy. Meanwhile, Zelario's team held firm against Feldway, their resilience keeping the world protected even as their strength neared its limits. As Veldora excitedly proposed using his self-named lightning technique, Chloe swiftly shut him down, revealing that her foresight had shown it would only make Milim stronger and untouchable. Understanding that their best approach was to minimize their power output while maximizing their physical containment efforts, Veldora obediently complied, despite his initial grumbling. Following Chloe's next command, Veldora took Milim's magic bullets head-on, absorbing them instead of dodging, an action that saved the Sacred Tree's branch city from devastating destruction. Though the city's residents had mostly evacuated, some still sought refuge within, relying on the belief that the sacred tree would never fall. Chloe's strategy ensured their safety, but the ongoing battle remained unsustainable. However, hope flickered as Gaia, Milim's dragon companion, continuously called out to his master. Finally, Milim's movements slowed, signaling a breakthrough. Encouraged, Chloe and Veldora pressed forward with renewed determination. On the other side of the battle, Feldway simmered with frustration. Just when he had nearly seized full control of Milim to obliterate the sacred tree, interference from Chloe and Veldora thwarted his plans. Feldway despised heroes, and Chloe in particular, as her interventions felt like a constant reminder of his past failure, not eliminating Chloe when he had the chance. It was beyond logic how the battle remained balanced despite Milim's berserk strength, especially considering how even Guy and Ramirez had struggled against a rampaging Milim in the past. The last time Milim had lost control, it had taken all of Guy's might and Ramirez's then godlike power to contain her. Yet here, without those two, the battle remained inexplicably even. This abnormality forced Feldway to scrutinize the situation. Then, the realization struck him: Chloe's guidance to Veldora was too precise, too perfectly timed. It wasn't just prediction, it was recollection. Chloe wasn't rewinding time, she was reliving it. Feldway had nearly uncovered the secret of Chloe's power. She was using her consciousness to project into the past, enabling her to make perfect decisions as if she had already seen the battle's outcome. There was only one effective counter to such an ability: stop world. If time itself was halted, Chloe wouldn't be able to send her consciousness back, severing her advantage. Feldway had avoided using stop world until now, believing it inefficient and wary that the enemy might counter it. However, seeing how the battle refused to tilt in his favor, he decided that eliminating these nuisances warranted the effort. Preparing to activate stop world, Feldway braced for the decisive shift, only to be met with yet another series of interruptions, one after another, derailing his carefully laid plans yet again. As Leon struggled against Feldway, Yuuki and his team arrived casually, offering their assistance. With their arrival, the battlefield now boasted 8 of the most formidable individuals in the world facing off against Feldway. To an outsider, it might have seemed like an unbeatable formation, but Zolario quickly warned them that Feldway had already analyzed and adapted to their abilities. Any technique used against him once would never work again. Yuki and Kagali, once controlled by Michael, assumed Feldway knew their abilities, while Tyr and Laplace had a few unknown tricks but couldn't be careless. However, Yuki remained unfazed, treating it like a predictable manga twist, confident in his hidden powers. He planned to kill Feldway before he could copy anything or use techniques Feldway couldn't replicate. Zolario, though doubtful, quickly dismissed the idea, knowing the difficulty. Yuki had no intention of a full-scale fight. He was there to support Laplace, who, after regaining memories as Saurian, wanted to save his wife and daughter, Elmesia and Sylvia. Initially indifferent, Yuki was moved by Laplace's sincerity and agreed to help, with Kagali, Tyr, and Ava following without hesitation. Their goal was to stall for Veldora, but with Milim still uncontrolled, they had to keep buying time. Yuki's strategy was simple: provoke Feldway and escape, keeping his full strength hidden. While Zolario found his attitude frustrating, Laplace shared his preference for deception and misdirection. As Laplace tried to position himself beside Yuki in the sky, Sylvia suddenly snatched him mid-air, gripping his neck with terrifying intensity and demanding an explanation. She had recognized his true identity during Jahil's magic explosion but had suppressed her emotions, until now. Laplace foolishly feigned ignorance, only enraging Sylvia further. Furious, she tightened her grip, vowing to break their vows if he had hidden from her. Seeing her tears, Laplace panicked and quickly promised to explain later, finally calling her by name. This softened her briefly, but overwhelmed with emotion, she delivered a devastating corkscrew punch, demanding why he had never sent a message if he was alive. Dazed but nostalgic, Laplace removed his mask, smiled warmly, and reassured Sylvia that he would stall Feldway. He attempted to take off, only to be stopped. A voice rang out as a powerful hand gripped his shoulder, pushing him back towards Sylvia. Startled, Laplace turned to see Diablo, who had appeared unnoticed. Realizing the danger, Laplace recoiled in shock. Even Sylvia hesitated before questioning his presence. With a sinister laugh, Diablo dismissed her concerns and fixed his gaze on Feldway, declaring his intent to take over. Laplace and Sylvia exchanged a silent glance. They needed to stay out of this. Diablo's mere presence was enough to unnerve even allies, and now the battle had taken a drastic turn.